So I think you should look at a year-to-year change. It's a jump of 142 to 130. I think, to my mind, the challenge is to take India to the top 50 position. And India should be able to do this in the next 3 to 4 years for various reasons. First and foremost, that there is a reversal of a trend. You know, last 4 years, India's position had been falling down year after year, year after year, year after year.
We've notched up.
We've jumped up 12 positions. That's number one. Number two, I think there has, whatever changes that you have brought in, and there are several other changes which have not been recognized by the World Bank because they consider usage of that by the respondents. And many of those changes have been introduced just before May 31st.
That's
the
right.
cutoff date is May 31st. So those usages have increased substantially. For instance, on trading across borders, on EPFO, ESIC. Many of these changes have not even been recognized by the World Bank, and I think they'll recognize them this year. Thirdly, to my mind, the government has brought in a number of institutional changes post May 31st. For instance, the National Company Law Tribunal, which has been passed by the Supreme Court.
Which have really not been notified.
Or the setting up of commercial courts. Or, for instance, the Vishwanathan Committee is going to submit its report, and you will have easy entry and exit. Now, these are major institutional changes. I don't think it's possible for India to jump up many notches and go to 50 position till we don't improve on enforcement of contract, till we don't improve on easy entry and exit and so on.
I will break it down into particular questions. You know, you have improved considerably, and the World Bank report does recognize the fact that it's easier now to start up business in India. But Mr. Kant, you know better than anybody else that the startup ecosystem in India is really buzzing with action. It's really mushrooming with every new startup that's coming to the fore. You've gone up 29 notches, definitely since 2004, but we're still at 155. For that ecosystem to flourish, what is it that we're going to see from the government end which will facilitate it more?
So it used to take 4 months.
That's right.
To establish a company in India. It's come down to 29 days. To my mind, we should be able to establish a company in just 1 day. In fact, to my mind, India must target that it must make companies register in 1 hour. And this is highly doable. I mean, if it is possible for us to get a Gmail account or a Yahoo account
within
seconds, the algorithm should enable you to put it up in exactly 1 hour. And I think the Company Affairs is working towards it, and we will crack this one for sure.
I also want to go to the enforcement of contracts because, you know, very rightly you pointed out that the government is working towards it. We are at 178. We are still working on the public-private partnership model. I know you're closely involved with that. But what is it that the government will do to ensure, because this seems to suggest there's a lot of litigation that happens between government on one hand and the private parties on the other. What is it that you're going to ensure in that relationship which is going to enforce contracts? Because there is very little respect, if I may, for enforcement of contracts in India.
No, I think it's very important to first of all understand that the World Bank study looks at the entire ecosystem, and therefore it's important for government to act on a number of issues, but it's also very important for the courts to improve their functioning.
I was going to come to that.
I mean, if it's also very important to set right the institutional mechanism in several places. Now, India is 186 out of 189 till last year in enforcement of contracts. Only Angola, Bangladesh and Timor-Leste were behind us, and therefore in India it takes 1400 days to get a commercial matter settled. It takes 42% of your contract amount goes in litigation, and therefore we must have e-filing, we must have e-judgments, we must have commercial courts in all these places. And unless and until that is not done, and I think there's a huge scope for radical improvement in enforcement of contract, and I think on the bankruptcy laws, easy entry, easy exit. Bankruptcy law holds the key to India jumping up in a big way.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.